Madelyn, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. Before we get into all the good, juicy stuff, why don't you tell everyone what it is that you do and how you help people?
I'm super excited to be here. I love your podcast and have just been really excited all week about this. So, a little bit about me, I help service providers stand out online and turn their leads into clients with websites, strategic content, done for you social media management. So, I love making marketing feel simple and strategic. They want time freedom, so I take social media off their plate so that they can do that.
I love that. And social media is one of those things we kind of have to do. I don't love to do it, but if you're going to be in this world and this is what you want to do, you have to show up there. So let's talk a little bit about why we have to show up on these platforms and be out there in the world.
People ask me that all the time. Can I just skip Instagram or skip posting? And I actually was having a conversation last week with a client, and she said before she started working with me, she hated posting on social media. But she said it's been so interesting because she had a lead base who were interested in her services, but they weren't fully trusting her. And she said posting on social media and posting strategically, addressing their concerns and fears and worries, and her content has helped them feel nurtured and trust her even more. I think a lot of times people think of social media as ways to get even more exposure and visibility, which it can be that for
Yeah.
sure. It's also such a great way to nurture those people who are kind of looking at working with you, wanting to know more about you, but just haven't taken the leap yet.
So let me ask you, on Instagram, if I'm correct, I remember that about 4% of your followers see your post. My question is, when you're nurturing, how do you get more visibility to your people that you want to nurture?
Going to Instagram stories first, just because I love talking about Instagram stories and they're really fun. Now, it is true only a percentage of people will see that. Instagram stories are so unique in the fact that you can really show a behind the scenes glimpse of your business, your life, who you are. And so even if it's just a small percentage, it's going to reap results. I absolutely love Instagram stories for asking my followers questions,
Okay.
putting up polls, getting them to engage with certain things. In fact, last week I put up a question on my Instagram story and it wasn't even business related. It was just talking about
Yeah.
decorating for Christmas before Thanksgiving. And I got so many responses for that. It was just a really fun conversation. I love talking about stuff like that. But I think even though it is a small percentage of people, first of all, the people who do see it, they are going to get to know you better. But then also, the flip side of that is the more people are engaging and the more intentional you're sharing content that people want to see, whether that's in stories or on posts, the more that Instagram is going to push that out to your followers and to other people. Again, the more that you just create good content, then Instagram's going to reward you for that.
Are you helping your clients start in reels and B-rolls with text overlay or format and then trying to pull everyone into stories?
What I normally focus on is their feeds or their posts, incorporating more keywords into posts. So
Mm-hmm.
this is something big on Instagram. It's
Yep.
going to show that to people who don't necessarily follow you. It's just really interesting to me how much social media has shifted from just showing all of your content to all of your
Yes.
followers to, okay, this keyword matches this person's search. I'm mostly
Yeah.
focused on posts, but I give ideas to clients for stories. And then if they're doing something great, I'm like, good job. This is exactly what we want. And if there's something we can tweak, maybe I give them some ideas to make them a little bit better.
So really you're focused on getting people in the door, helping them grow their followers and seeing new people, which is really where it starts because I could be in stories all day long. And if I have nobody watching, it doesn't make any sense, right? So I really do love that. And then you're doing the keywords in the captions, is that correct?
Captions and bios.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation with someone else about this, and I thought it was fascinating. They were like, yeah, nowadays you have to do SEO keywords, and now you
There
have
you
to
go.
do AI phrases.
Yep.
Is Instagram also following that trend where we have to do more than just a few keywords?
AI is becoming really prevalent and people are bypassing Google and going straight to ChatGPT. And so I actually was at a conference 2 weeks ago and they were talking about this idea and how to make your content, whether that's blog post or social media or whatever that is, found by AI. And so they said start phrasing things as questions or answers to questions. Think about what your audience is searching for because when you're on ChatGPT, you
Yeah.
normally ask a question, whereas Google, you might type in a phrase. And so they're like, if you can have that mindset going into it, that helps. And I definitely do that with clients. And Instagram's changing all the
All
time.
the time.
And so I try to tell people don't get too overwhelmed trying to put keywords in and make sure it appeals to
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Just focus on solving a problem
Yes.
for your people and giving them value. And that's going to make all the difference. Just putting your audience first, for sure.
If you don't know the problem that your people have and you don't know the questions they're asking, you can't make the post. And
Completely.
so let's talk about reels and carousels and images. Is there one that you prefer to do more over the other, or do you try to keep them equally balanced?
It depends on the client
Okay.
first and foremost, but carousels are really doing well on Instagram right now. In fact, the CEO of Instagram came out a couple months ago and said carousels are one of the posts that we push the most. They also said, this is also just a little tip, but they said adding music to carousels also helps you get discovered more too. Carousels are good because people can just swipe through and they can get to the content at a glance. And so it's just really digestible, really easy to read. So coming at it from that angle, I really do like to incorporate a good amount of carousels in clients' posts, but then I also incorporate reels into it as well because one, you're going to have more of a shot at showing up on the reels suggested page. And then also too, with reels, you can show your face more. You can
Mm,
talk to the camera. Even if it's just B-roll, people are seeing you. And
yeah.
so I think that definitely helps connect you to your followers or non-followers. It helps build that trust. And so it's kind of a mix of different posts, and it's also whatever the client wants to do, to be quite honest. I have one client and she's like, "Can I not have as many reels just because I don't want to record myself a ton?" I'm like, "That's fine. Yeah, we can do that." It hasn't affected her reach because she teaches and she shares a lot of valuable content. So her followers really appreciate that. Now, with other people where you have to have a big amount of trust, like a coach, for
Hmm.
example, showing your face would be more beneficial
Yeah.
to your audience.
I found is I had to get in there and kind of figure it out too. So we were trying to do ones with my feet walking. We tried to do ones of a cool tree grove where I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And they just didn't perform.
Yeah.
It would be such low views. But then it would be me walking or me doing something. And then they got more. So then I was like, let's just try just me always in it, walking, doing something. But then I found I did a lot of smiling ones and we have too many smiling ones. Now we have to do ones where I'm more serious. And those started doing better. But it is a lot of trial and error
Yes.
on there. So I see these people all the time. So let's talk about this, where they're like, here's the one hack you have to do on Instagram and it changes everything. Yeah, there's no one hack, right?
No. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I roll my eyes when I see stuff like that. When they're trying to go viral, here's the secret sauce, or like, here's what you have to do. Well, it is not a one size fits all. And plus, Instagram or social media in general changes all the
All the
time.
time.
So what worked a year ago is not working as much now. So yeah, I laugh to myself whenever I see things like
Yeah.
that. And again,
And
too, when people get so focused on beating the algorithm
yeah.
or figuring out the secret, then they don't give as much value to their audience either. And their audience gets tired of that. And it's not profitable to anybody.
It burns you out.
Yeah, it
And
does.
it's better to do less than
Mhm.
more. Be really strategic. And I love how you're very strategic about it with your clients. For me, my audience are already successful women. They already have a business, they're already making consistent sales, right? So I'm talking to a different level where most people out there are talk to brand new people. So if I just copied someone, their hack, and they're talking to brand new people starting businesses, my people would be like, Christina, what are you talking about? They're not even listen. They're gonna stop showing up because they're like, I've already done it. Why are you talking about that? So
Yep.
I feel customizing to your clients and to your clients' ICAs is
Mhm.
so critical. And I love that you're doing that. I know you specialize too in helping people who are introverts. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So with introverts, I think a lot of times they feel they have to show up loud and with a lot of energy and they have to be on 24/7. And for introverts, and I myself am one as well, for introverts, that is just exhausting and it's not good for your nervous system. In fact, I experienced some burnout a couple of years ago because I was on social media all the time, both consuming and creating for it for myself. So I think a myth that people have, they think that visibility is all about quantity instead of quality. And we have to be consistent, but we need to give quality content. I definitely feel for all the introverts out there because it's a hard thing to figure out how many times per week can you post without feeling exhausted. And that's why I like batching content too,
Yeah.
because I do mine on Thursdays. I write my
Okay.
emails for my email list on Thursdays. I do my social media posts on that day as well. And so it helps me tremendously because I can say, okay, I'm going to record a few reels at a time. And then once it's done, I don't have to think about it for another week. And so that has been such a huge lifesaver. My energy is protected. Like, also, something that I suggest to introverts is having content buckets. You hear people
Yeah.
call them content pillars. I just like the visual of buckets better, but it's just a good way of having the same type of post, repeating the same things. You can recycle
Yeah.
them. And so it's just if you have a list of it, of these buckets, then you can look at the list and say, okay, I'm going to do this one, and this one for next week or whatever that is. And then after that, you just go down the list until you get to the end and then you repeat it. And so not having to constantly think of new ideas is super
Hmm.
helpful as a lot of introverts excel in storytelling. Use that in carousels, use that in captions, write some case studies.
Yeah.
That's also doing super well. So if your audience wants to connect even more with their followers, I definitely recommend case studies.
When you're batching, do you already know the topics you're going to do, or do we pick a day, maybe in the beginning of the month, where you're like, for the next month or two, each week topic's going to be this, and I'm kind of picking my topics? Or do you sit down when you're batching and decide today, I'm going to do this topic?
Typically do is at the end of the month, I'll look at the following month and plan that out roughly. I mean, I leave some space to
Of
be
course.
creative, but so I do that at the end of the month for the following
Okay.
month. Then on Thursdays is when I write my emails for the next week. I create my social media posts for the next week. And if there's like a podcast that I'm supposed to be on, I also use that day to prep for that. So that's kind of
Okay.
my content creation day.
That's what I do too, but I do all of my podcasts, all of my YouTube for a whole month. Now, this week, I was so grateful because I got 8 people on my podcast. So I've done 8 interviews this week. I have 2 months already done, but I'm still booking for next month and I'm still keeping ahead. But I find that if I batch them, and I just take 1 week, then the whole month I can focus on writing my book that I'm working on, and I can focus on all this other stuff where it's that creativity, where I don't have to worry about what am I going to talk about today. They're kind of already pre-done. The only thing that's gotten a little messed up is my YouTube. So I did the podcast and then I make a YouTube video as well, because I am now editing all my own content. I took it all over. I let go of my whole team and I said, I'm doing this. I'm going to figure out why we're not seeing the results we want. And so I've been doing everything. So I've gotten a little behind on YouTube, but I'm making it work. So I
That's
love the
awesome.
idea of batching. Now let's talk about content buckets.
Mhm.
Is there a certain number of buckets that they should have?
Yeah. So what I tell people,
Hmm.
so we want to kind of keep our focus. I don't want to say narrow because we definitely want some creativity there,
Yeah.
but we need to know who we're talking to audience wise. We need to know what problem we're helping them solve, and we need to know what their pain points and desires and the overall transformation that they want should be. So when we're making content buckets, we think about all those things. Maybe for one client, it's education. So I'll take one of my clients. She's an operations
Okay.
strategist. So maybe her bucket is education, but maybe those topics are client onboarding, 3 tips for client onboarding,
Mm,
or what to get your clients for Christmas, or what to do when XYZ happens.
okay.
So that's one bucket. Another could be the overall transformation that she wants to help people get. So she is a CEO and she's a mom, and her whole business is to help other moms who are CEOs have more back end so that they can spend time with their family and they can go on vacation and
Yeah.
still enjoy their business and make money. And so the transformation bucket is showing her on vacation with her family, or showing how she's able to take 2 weeks off at Christmas to be with her girls.
Yeah.
And so it's just saying, hey, I have this because I have these systems in place. Let me do this for you. Let me show you how to do this because it is possible. So that would be another bucket. Another one could be productivity hacks or productivity tips. And so it's just showing here's how to save some time. Obviously, it's kind of generic because she doesn't know every
Yeah.
individual
Yeah.
follower's business, but she can give kind of a blanket statement or a blanket post. And so it's just keeping their overall results in mind or what they want result
Yeah.
wise.
Then I have enough to reach into that I can change it up. A lot of times I feel like I'm talking about the same thing. And I know you
Yeah,
do, but I feel like how many times do they want to hear me talk about income jumping? Like how many times do they want to keep hearing about these things? And I'm writing a whole book around shadow success, but sometimes I'm like, because I feel like I'm talking about it all the time. And my coach is like, no, we gotta talk about more. And I'm like, but I feel like that's all I do. So I love that you have that categories, but I know inside of each we're still keeping the focus, right? So it's still what their ICA needs and wants, but they're just different areas to touch point on it, right?
exactly. That's exactly right.
And then how do you figure out your buckets? Do you have any tips to help your clients figure out how to really streamline them?
Yeah,
Okay.
so something that I love to tell people to do, and sometimes I get a little pushback on this, but I'm like, ask your clients, ask your followers what they want to see. And that sounds so simple, and people listening to that is might be like, well, duh, but you would
It's
not believe
hard.
people, yeah, you would not believe how many people just kind of try to create content without even thinking, okay, what does my audience want to see? So something that I do when people start working with me is I say, why do clients come to you? What's the number one reason that they come
Yeah.
to you? And then a lot of times I'll ask them, like, hey, either ask your current clients or post on social media what they want to see, what's most helpful for them. And so we get a lot of good responses from that. And something too, this is going a little bit outside of your question, but I'll bring it
So
back.
that's
Something that happens when people answer those questions is they will give certain words, the money words. And so we can take those words and we can use them in posts or we can use them as a content bucket in and of itself. I mean, there's just so many benefits to asking people specifically, hey, what do you want to see? So that's one way that you can form your content buckets. Another way is just, again, thinking, researching, looking
yeah.
on social media, seeing what's working for other people. Obviously, we don't want to steal ideas or anything like that, but
But topics, right? You can look
yeah.
at the topic if someone's similar field. Like
Mhm.
always don't steal it because again, we talked about earlier, I look at people who already have businesses where a lot of people talk about starting a business. But if someone's talking about a concept of starting a business where I'm like, oh, well, that applies to my people too, but of course I got to put the spin on it. That would help, right?
Absolutely, exactly. Just spending a little bit of time researching is really helpful and it gives you some ideas for that as well. And then some people already kind of know, okay, this is what I want to share about. This is helpful. So they know a little bit. And then you can ask your peers too. If you're in a business group, you can throw ideas around and say, hey, what do you think about this? So those are just a few ways to get started. But the number one way, the best thing is to ask and take those answers and form content buckets and even specific ideas around that.
And then I would say too, if you don't have a big audience yet and you're still trying to figure it out, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but would just also trying stuff
Oh
help
yeah,
too?
yeah.
Because I remember when I first started on Instagram and I had nobody, I was like, oh, what do I want to post? And I was trying to ask people after I would do a few posts and but it was like crickets, right? Because you don't get enough views for someone to actually be like, oh, I want to do this. So then you're just kind of like, okay, hello. So, and maybe that's where stories comes in because you were talking about how you do the polls on stories, which is cool. But I would say, yeah, if you're newer or you have a really small audience right now, or you're just not getting as many views, just keep trying stuff until that's what I kept doing. I was like, oh, I would get 100 views or 200 views, and I would change something. I'd be like, oh, that got 400. Well, people kind of like that a little more.
Yep.
And then I told my story about how I had to pay the IRS $300,000 and I didn't have it because I didn't. I made $500,000 and then I had to pay 300,000 of it. So I
Oh my
wasn't
goodness.
prepared for that. And that post was huge. It blew up because people were like, whoa, because it's the story, right? I had to do a
Yeah.
payment plan and everything. It was hard. But then I couldn't reproduce it because that was the story. So then I noticed, okay, they like hearing the struggle more so than all the perfect stuff, right? And so now
Yes.
I'm like, I want to share more of the struggle. It's just like, how do you articulate that on a social media post? That's the hardest part.
Yes. Yes. Well, and something too that I was thinking about while you were talking is that storytelling, that
Yeah.
specificity, that is going to resonate so much more with people, especially in a world that is so overrun with AI.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many posts I come across and I'm just like, oh, I can tell AI wrote this. But posts you're describing that you said did super, super well. It tells a story, it tells a struggle, it shows that you're human. And it's very relatable in the sense of, hey, I'm a business owner and all this stuff helped me get to where I am now. Like you can do it. It's like an encouragement. And I definitely think if people lean more into that, then they're going to see a lot more connection on social media and engagement and just get that trust from people.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part on social media is connection.
Mhm.
Because if I'm sitting in person or we're talking one-on-one and we had a cool conversation when we started, and I know we're going to have many, many more, but we're making that one-to-one personal connection. We get to see each other, all this cool stuff. But when you're on social media, it's kind of like when I'm making YouTube videos. I'm looking at a camera and I pretend that I have an audience behind it at the moment. When you're on social media, it's kind of lagging. You see it
Mhm.
after the post is done, after a few weeks, then you're like, oh, that didn't hit really well. Okay, let me try it again. So I think the connection building is one of the hardest things to do on there. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I've seen it done really, really well and really, really poorly in the sense of we don't want to be on social media 24/7. We don't have time for that.
Yeah.
We're business owners. Social media is great and needs to be utilized, but we can't be on it all day. And so I think one, prioritizing how do I want to show up? How can I connect with people? And I've found that showing like behind the scenes glimpses shows your authority and shows you interacting with other people. So sharing posts, like people are different how much they want to share their family, but if you are comfortable sharing pictures of like, hey, my family went and picked out our Christmas tree or we're celebrating Thanksgiving today, that also helps boost connection and not in a inauthentic way, but it feels like they know you, they relate to you, and you are sharing a piece of your life with them. But again, you're not like sharing too much, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a fine line. And what you said about experimenting and it's trial and error, that's key because one account is going to be different than the next account. And not everybody's followers are the same.
Then let me ask you about this too, about sharing for authority, because I see this. I always say, don't do this, but I'm curious what you think. A lot of people will come in and they try to be in the fanciest cars. And I know people rent a jet just to sit in to make a
Mhm.
video. People feel like they have to have the fanciest houses. Like I'm sitting in well, we're renovating, but I'm sitting in my dining room. I don't care what's behind me because I'm like, that's not the point. Does it matter to make authority on Instagram? What you're wearing, what you're driving, what house or place you're in? Does that even make a difference on any of that?
Yeah, this is a really good question. With my clients, the people that they're trying to attract, if one of my clients, let's just call her Susan, if Susan is sitting on a private jet and she's like renting that out just for that post, it's going to feel very inauthentic and that is not going to appeal to her audience. Her audience is more concerned with how can I close my laptop at 3 p.m. so I can be with my kids. It just kind of makes me bristle a little bit too when there's that
Yeah.
inauthenticity there. My gut reaction is that's not the way to build authority. What I try to do and encourage my clients to focus on is doing it from the sense of, hey, I'm an expert in this area. Let me share a piece of what I know with you. And so now for those types of videos, because I know you mentioned clothes.
Yeah.
So one of my clients, if she's a mom, she might be sharing on Wednesday about how she's trying to manage her business and picking up the kids from school. And she might be hair up in a messy bun that day because she's trying to show the relatable side of herself. However, on Thursday, if she wants to share a educational tip, maybe she looks a little bit different than the day before. And I don't want to say that to sound icky or anything,
No,
but we
but
do want to look credible when we're sharing educational pieces, but in an authentic way.
I tell people all the time, and I'm like, people don't understand I'm a multimillionaire. I don't have 10 Louis Vuittons because I don't
Mhm.
really care, right? I get a new car every 4 years. I pay cash for it. I don't have to worry about a lot of different things. I live a different life. I call it quiet wealth,
Mhm.
where if you see me sometimes, I'm picking up the kids. I live in a really wealthy area, but I don't look, I'm super wealthy
Mhm.
because I don't really care.
Yeah.
Right? Now if I'm going to go to a really nice event or something, I can pull out all the nice stuff and I can look really nice. But to me, it's why do I have to be showy all the time? And I think
Mhm.
this goes back into our own self, right? And finding fulfillment so we can feel joy. Having success and all this money doesn't equal joy. It's just money and
100%.
stuff. right?
Mhm.
For me, the joy is really being with my family, getting to travel. I talk to people and they're like, oh, I'm so wealthy. And they try to brag. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And then I start talking about how I spend 3 or 4 months in Europe and I go just travel around and I enjoy. And they're like, oh, you get to go to Europe? I'm like, wait a minute, where's your weight? You're telling me how wealthy you are, bragging about your cars. But you look at the different lifestyles of people. And I feel the other part of it in me when I go on social media is I don't always want to show that side.
Yeah, yeah, and that is such a great point too, because the balance of, hey, I do have all this, but and I am an authority, but I want to be relatable too. And so I think showing the side of you that, well, first of all, just always genuinely showing, hey, I want to help. When you come from that mindset, it makes a tremendous difference because so many people that I see on social media are just like, hey, I want to sell. And of course, we want to make money, but we have to genuinely show I have the tools, I have the knowledge, I have been through 20 years of entrepreneurship. Let me show you what I've learned. Let me take you along for that journey. And so I think showing occasionally, hey, I was able to go on a 1 week vacation or whatever,
Yeah.
and I would love to help you get that time freedom. I think coming at it from that is really good. But I definitely agree with you about we don't want to come
Yeah.
across as braggy either because that's going to turn people off.
Or you attract the wrong people because I feel like
Yeah.
when you're really braggy about it, then you get the people who are like, oh, I want that lifestyle. So here's the thing a lot of people don't understand. You have to do the work. Now,
Hmm.
I make it effortless the way I help my clients is I really streamline it so it does kind of just come to you and happen, but you still have to put the work in.
Yeah.
Right? You still have to build something. If you don't have a business, I can't help you make $1 million tomorrow if you have no business. If you don't even know how to start it, if you don't even know how to be consistent, you don't know how to do just some basic stuff. I can help you with the basic stuff, but I can't help you go from nothing to a million. And a lot of people say that. And I feel like you attract those people thinking, oh, I want that lifestyle, but I'm not ready to do the work. I want the people who are like, Christina, I've done the work. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I want to jump to the next level. I want to build an ecosystem that feels effortless, that just breathes. It's there. And then I get to go and actually have fulfillment and joy and go with me and my family. And
Exactly.
just have time and not stress is another dollar going to come or my launch didn't go well or something else happened and now I'm stressed. We don't want that, right? So I want those people who want that kind of lifestyle. And I feel like we have to figure out that goes back to our discussion of our buckets, right?
Mhm.
Figuring out our people. What do they want? How do we want to attract them? Our branding, our conversation. Because even on social media, even when you're getting clips, right? I feel like it's clips of your life.
Mhm.
When you do that, you still have to make sure you're talking to the right people. And I feel like sometimes, even on social media, that's hard to find and do because are they really out there looking? How are they looking? What are they looking for? I know that's been a struggle for me.
Mhm.
So, is that something that you're seeing with your clients, especially when you're helping them?
Finding the right people. Something that is really cool that they can do is really pour into other people as well, other business owners. And what I mean by that is looking for collaborations. So how can I help you?
Hmm.
How can we be mutually both be beneficial to each other? And so that may look like an Instagram live. Doing that, you're both spotlighting each other's accounts.
Yeah.
Collaborative posts are a really good way to do that now. That Instagram has allowed that within the past couple of years, coming up with a really good carousel or a reel, something that is helpful for both audiences. Even just asking people to share about your business in an
Yeah.
authentic way, not trying to sell them or anything,
Yeah.
but just saying, like, hey, I'd love to give your audience this, or hey, I really think this might appeal to your audience. So, those are some different types of things that you can do to build your account. But we want to make sure that we find other audiences that are aligned. For me, if I was doing a collaboration, a brand photographer might be somebody good that I collaborate with.
I feel like you could almost use everybody now. If you're going to be talking about social media and selling what you do, and then you're with somebody who's like, social media is a joke and you don't need it, well, you're not going to collaborate with them, right? Of course, because it's
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
going to help you in any way. I love that. And I love the idea of just building a community of your people. I've been planning a YouTube video about this as well because you need to collaborate with people, but you need to build your community of people, right? And so I'm building the House of Cortesa, right? It's brand new. We're getting it launched. And the whole point of the House of Cortesa is if you struggle to find your people, it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Mhm.
Let's take the hay away, put all the
Love that.
needles together, and just come say, these are my people.
Love
That's
that.
the whole point. And so when you come into it, These are already people like you, people who are doing what you want to do, to people who are ahead of you, behind you, next to you. It's all about that community, but it's also about the business growth and everything else. If you don't have that kind of community for what you do, or you can't find, it's go build your own. Having people help you, especially on social media, and if they, I call it cross-pollination.
Absolutely. Yes. I
Yeah.
love that cross-pollination. That's so good.
Yes, it
I love
really is.
that.
I remember there was this funny episode. It's like a cartoon, but they were, oh, they each have 1 million followers. And then it was, no, they both have 1 million, but we would say it's somewhere between 1 million and 2 million because a lot kind of connect. They have some of the same. It's kind of the same idea. We're going to cross-pollinate. Some of their people are going to come here, some are going to go over, some are going to stay at both. That's
Mhm.
okay. But the cool thing is you're getting that visibility out there and your people are seeing you. I always tell people with this caution, it doesn't work instantly. It's not
Mhm.
like I'm going to work with you and tomorrow I'm going to have 10,000 new followers when I collaborate with you, right? It doesn't work like that.
True.
But maybe
Mhm.
I'll get two or three. But then in 6 months, we do it again and maybe I get a couple hundred. And then it's just they have to see me enough with you that they validate me and I validate you, which I think is super cool.
That is really cool. So I think a lot of times people are thinking about social media and they're thinking about followers. A lot of times people think, okay, the higher amount of followers that I have, the more sales I'm going to make or the more clients I'm going to have. And that is not necessarily true. I cannot tell you how many times I see these big accounts or work with these big accounts. They have 50, 60, 70,000 or over 200,000 followers, and they're not making many sales at all versus people who have maybe 2 or 3 thousand. I've even worked with one account. She had 700 followers and they were doing extremely well. They were making sales left and right. Their audience was super engaged. So I
Yeah.
think when people are thinking about followers or I don't have very many followers, that's not always a good metric to look at
Yeah.
because we want to see out of all those followers who is going to trust you, who is going to buy from you. In turn, like how can I provide value and help those people? So I just wanted to like, qualify that
I love
because
that.
that's a question I get a lot.
How do you get more sales out of Instagram? Because I think people on Instagram are so obsessed with the follower number.
So I have two things to say about this, and they're a little bit different. The first goes back to the original example that I gave when we first started talking about one of my newer clients, and she had local clients, I should say, and they
Yeah.
were interested in her, but they just didn't know her. And so Instagram helped bridge that gap, and she nurtured them. She showed her face. She built that connection. And so they felt more confident in their decision to work
Work
with
with
her. So
Yeah.
that's one way that it could work. The other way of how to get people off of Instagram and as clients or as buyers is giving them a reason to. One way that I've seen this work recently, and again, Instagram, social media is all about trial and error. So what's working now may not work in a few weeks. But something really interesting that I've started playing around with is in stories, sharing something that grabs people's attention, throwing out a statement of surprise, basically. I don't want to clickbait people by any means, but saying,
It's stop the scroll.
yeah,
It's a stop the
exactly.
scroll comment. That's what I say. It's not clickbait. It's a
Yes.
stop the scroll because if it can't stop you, you're not going to read the rest.
Exactly. So if, for example, if I put on Instagram at the top on Instagram stories, if I said, I don't like social media. And so people, if they know that I'm a social media manager, they're like, oh my goodness, what is she posting? And then
Yeah.
they read up under that. And it's basically what we are talking about right now. I don't like that people try to use AI on social media, or I don't like that people are all about trying to sell, sell, sell instead of nurture and get people off. So it's qualifying that a little bit. And then at the end, I might have people comment, DM me tools for more help or something like that.
Yeah.
ManyChat is a good way to get people off of Instagram and onto your email list. So I say all that because that is one that gets people to stop their scroll, like you said.
Yeah.
And two, it gets people more curious of, okay, well, she's got me reading, she's got me curious. I want to learn more. Like, I'm going to comment this word, and then they join my email list. Or sometimes it's just even giving them value. I think a lot of people, they just post on social media and they're just like, hey, I have an email list that goes out every Monday, like sign up. In fact, I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, when you phrase it like that, it sounds like they're giving you something, which is their email address. But when you phrase it like, hey, do you want the exclusive? Do you want these 5 trends that are working right now?
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh, she's giving me something. Here's my email. So I think those are just a few of the things that we can do to get people to take action or use social media in a strategic way.
It's funny. I was just interviewing a psychiatrist and we were talking about websites and she uses the brain and how people respond in different ways and pre-influence and influence and how you can do all those different things. And she talked about this. She was like, you can't just ask for something from somebody. You have to build the trust by giving them stuff. So if you create content that is really good, educational, right? It's really giving them something and you're depositing in over time, then you can ask for something.
Yeah. Yeah, that gives me the ick. I
Yeah.
don't like that. And you're right, like your email address is highly coveted. So why would you give that out if you don't trust the person if they're not giving you any value? So yeah, that's a great point. Can't wait to listen to the episode about with the psychiatrist. That'll be
Oh,
fun.
yes, it was really good. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. So it was great conversation, and it goes into all the stuff that we're doing here on Instagram because you have to be able to sell to people. So the funny thing is, when you hear the word sell or selling, you think that I'm going to get on a phone call or I'm going to make some sleazy pitch, but people don't understand. You're selling every moment you speak. You're
Mm,
selling in every moment that you do something, every post, every carousel, everything you're putting out there is a sales pitch.
so true.
And so you have to think about how it's going to be perceived. And I'm really big on the branding, marketing. And I feel like on Instagram, a lot of people do that. They hype it up. And then when people come into the world DMs and they never respond, or I have ManyChat who's posting stuff, but I never talk to a person, like those are all touch points in social media that makes it really hard for someone to build trust in such a world of craziness.
Oh, so true. And I like what you said too about pre-selling, having that runway and having the marketing behind it initially, rather than just coming on Instagram or whatever that is out of the blue and saying, here's this, buy this, and not even caring about the person or not even building that relationship first. So I love that. I 100% agree.
As we're wrapping up the end of our time together, let's talk a little bit about where people can find you and how they can work with you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Madelyn Victoria Co. Send me a DM or a voice note. I love voice notes with any questions that you have, or if you'd like more information about social media management. And then my website is madelynvictoriaco.com, and you can book a call and learn more.
And as you are listening to this whole podcast, you can tell she is very knowledgeable and she is going to take a lot off your plate. She also goes the next step and educates you and helps you and guides you. Go reach out to her, send her a DM, have a conversation. She is amazing. And then that way you can just take it off of your plate, but not have to worry about it. So, Madelyn, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I had so much fun and what a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved this and talking with you. So I had the best time.
Yeah, me too. We'll see each other on Instagram.